Hi guys, today I'm going to update you on my Hashimoto's healing journey. A month ago I went to my country and I did a lot of blood work there because it's so much cheaper, and I thought I would take advantage of the prices and do as many tests as possible just to get some more information to play with and just to find out how things are going. So that's what this video is about. Let's jump right in. So I went into the lab knowing exactly what I wanted to test out. I had a few theories after my extensive research and I wanted to test them out and to see if I was right. So one of the theories was that my ferritin is really low. Now ferritin is sort of an iron stores. So a lot of women have normal hemoglobin and iron levels. However, the iron stores or ferritin are low. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I went in to check and ideally it should be at least 70. I mean between 70 and 90, but mine was 25. Just to give an idea of the correct levels, it should be at least 50 for the hair to stop falling, and it should be at least 70 for hair to start growing back. So mine is 25, and that would explain why pretty much all of my life since teenage years I've been losing hair. Every single hairdresser I've ever been to has told me that my hair is falling, and that might be the reason why. So since I found out, I've started taking iron supplements. Actually, I started taking them just before I found out because I was pretty sure that my ferritin would be really low, so I started taking it, and the changes have been phenomenal. I've been so much stronger, exercising has been much easier. Coincidentally, ferritin is also very important for thyroid function. It's also important for the FT4 to FT3 conversion, so having correct iron stores is extremely important for me. Next, at that time I was battling with really bad hay fever for a couple of months, and my hay fever used to go in waves. I used to have it for 2-3 months and then nothing for a couple of months, and then again really strong for 2-3 months. I could never understand why. And I went in to do a test called Immunoglobulin E, which basically shows if there is some kind of an allergy going on in the body. So I thought I would just do that one simple and cheap test, and if the immunoglobulin levels were raised, then I would do all the other allergen tests. But if they were normal, then I would know that I have no allergy. So I did that test and the levels were 3.5 times above the limit. So I realized that I do have some kind of allergy, so I had to spend more money to do extensive allergen tests. So I tested out 60 airborne allergens and 40 food-based allergens. I'm not allergic to anything apart from one thing, and that's 2 types of dust mites. It's not very strong allergy, it's 2 and 3 out of 6. But it's likely to produce symptoms, and that's probably why I had my hay fever. But since I came back home, I've implemented a few changes that should reduce the levels of dust mites, and my hay fever and any kind of allergy symptoms have completely gone away. Next, I want to see what my Gliadin antibodies were doing, and Gliadin antibodies are the gluten antibodies. So I've been on the gluten-free diet for 6 months, and I really wanted to see what they were doing, because if gluten was really the problem for me, then they would be almost at normal levels now. They should be pretty much non-existent. However, if it wasn't gluten, then they would have still gone up. Before I started the gluten-free diet, my Gliadin antibodies were actually on the border. They were still within the right levels, but they were right on the border. They were 0.97 and the limit was 1, I think. But now they were actually 4 times above the limit, even though I was completely gluten-free for 6 months. So that to me was a proof that my thought process and my theory was right in the last couple of months, and that basically it's not gluten that's upsetting my system, but it's fructose and fructans instead. And that's why going off gluten didn't give me any results. It probably made it a bit more difficult for me to digest things, because gluten-containing breads have always been a safe food for me. So that definitely gave me lots of food for thought, and that will be a topic for another video in the future. But for now, let's just leave it at that. Gluten is probably not an issue for my body. Next, I tested out all of the thyroid levels. So first of all, I checked my TSH. and last year it was I think 4.05 or something like that. It was just over 4, so it was definitely too high. And this time it was lower, it was at 3.85. So 3.85 is a much better result. It's still way too high than a healthy thyroid should have, but I'm still happy to see that there is movement to the right direction. I'm super pleased. The most important thing that made me really happy was the levels of FT3 and FT4. My FT4 was normal, so last time, so it's still normal, right in the middle of the range, but the FT3 is now perfect as well. It's 4.54 and the limit is 3.10 to 6.80, so it's not in the upper range. Ideally it should be in the upper range, but it's still within the limits, and that's why I've been feeling so much better. And it's definitely a proof that FT4 is converting to FT3 so much better, and that's why I'm having so much more energy every single day. Then I also checked my cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL and LDL, and everything is perfect. A lot of HDL, which is the good one, very low triglycerides, perfect cholesterol, so everything is perfect there. Next, I really wanted to see the ratio between my calcium levels and phosphorus levels, because it's important for healthy teeth. And ideally, according to Dr. Weston Price, the famous dentist from the beginning of last century, according to him, the perfect ratio should be 2.5 calcium to phosphorus, and in my case it's 2.25, so it's almost there. It's pretty perfect. Both calcium and phosphorus are right in the middle of the range, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Next, another huge discovery was potassium. My levels were right at the bottom of the range, and the thing is that the bottom of the range is 3.5, but in real life people can have symptoms of low potassium starting from 4.3, and mine was 3.68. Now, my mom has had problems with the potassium levels for many years, and she has to take potassium pretty much all the time because for some reason her body just keeps losing it. And she said that when her levels reach around 4.3, she can't survive. Her heart starts jumping and her blood pressure goes up and she feels super tired. And my level was 3.68. So she was like, how do you even manage to walk and survive because your levels are so low? I don't know, but I started taking potassium, and then I retook my test a couple of weeks later, and my levels were 4.3, so pretty much perfect. I'm still taking it at lower doses now for a couple more weeks just to make sure that it is in the upper range, and then we'll see if my body manages to retain it or not. Next, I also checked my Thyroglobulin antibodies, which are the only antibodies against the thyroid that I had in my previous test, and that's the kind of test that shows I have Hashimoto's. And last time I took the test, which was almost a year ago, my antibodies were 7 times above the limit, and this time they were only 3 times above the limit, so there's a huge progress there. The antibodies are going down, and hopefully in the next 6 months or so they will become almost normal. Fingers crossed for that. So that's a huge reason to celebrate. I also checked out my vitamin D because I haven't supplemented for a lot of months now, 8 months or so, and I haven't really been in the sun that much this year. I mean, I have been in the sun, but it hasn't been that warm, so I always wore short sleeves and things like that, so I was quite covered up. So I thought that my levels would probably be low again, and they were at 28, and the official limit in Europe is 30, so just below the limit. But I'm not going to take supplements. I'm just going to spend more time in the sun as much as I can and take more magnesium, because vitamin D is often nothing else but magnesium deficiency. So I always have to remember to take magnesium, otherwise my vitamin D goes down. And in fact, for the month before the test, I didn't take any magnesium at all for the whole month, so that might be the reason why my vitamin D dipped. So the last test was quite an interesting one, and it's for Mycoplasma Pneumoniae antibodies. Mycoplasma is a sort of bacteria that is very similar in its behavior to a virus, and it's the bacteria that causes walking pneumonia and really bad bronchitis and a lot of different problems in people, especially when it becomes chronic. And 13 years ago, my mom, my sister, my dad and I had a really bad Mycoplasma Pneumonia, which lasted a long time, and my mom got to hospital, she nearly died. It was really bad. And then a couple of years later, I had another one. So I had 2 pneumonias in just a couple of years, and they were both from Mycoplasma bacteria. And Mycoplasma is really annoying because once it gets into the body, especially if it's weaker and if the immune system is not very strong, then it can become chronic, and it goes into different organs in the body and causes lots of troubles. And I suspected that it's still sitting in my body and possibly causing my thyroid issues and sore throat. I've been waking up with a sore throat for many years now, probably since those 13 years when I had the infection. And also sometimes out of the blue I get a really bad cough, and then the next day there's nothing. Things like that. So I suspected that it's probably still sitting there. And I also found out that it's very much linked to Hashimoto's. So I was very curious to see if I still had the antibodies, because after 13 years my antibodies should be almost non-existent, but the test showed that my antibodies are still more than twice above the limit. So after 13 years it shouldn't be like that. So that means that I still have a chronic mycoplasma infection in my body, and that could probably be one of the reasons why my thyroid decided to go crazy. So since then I've been doing a few things to get rid of the mycoplasma, and they've been working like a treat. I don't have a sore throat anymore, I don't cough anymore, my lungs feel really clear, I have much more energy. And the things I've been doing are Borax. I told you about it in my previous update, but Borax has been a godsend for me. I've also been taking neem leaf extract and something called uva ursi, and also iodine in kelp. And these 4 things are some of the best killers of mycoplasma, if not the best ones. So they've been working like a treat. I'm feeling so much better, and yeah, that's my update for today. And I think I'll make another video with all of the supplements I'm taking now, from now to the future, and all of the changes I'm implementing based on all of these blood tests. But in general, I can say that I'm feeling even better than before, and things are looking up. They continue looking up. I guess that's it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.